Then on the right. Whoops, can't remember. Alright, so first board is the board closest to the camera right there in front. Looks like they have a simple opening. King's Pawn. Looks like a standard Italian game on the part of Alexis Perez. This match is brought to you by NAHS TV. So the idea in an Italian game, for those of you who don't know, is to quickly develop your king side as well as gain control of the center 4 squares of the board. The main strategy behind that is that the center 4 squares are the squares that, if you have control of that, you have control of the entire rest of the board. This control of the center can happen either directly, as it does in the Italian, or indirectly, as it would if, say, you tried fianchettoing the bishops, where you go for corner shots. Oh, he brought out his other knight. Alexis did. That would be dangerous if his opponent had his bishop out. That could potentially lead to a nasty situation known as the fried liver. It's a silly name, I know, but you don't want to get caught in that. It's a neat move to make. It's a neat position to put your opponent in, but a nasty one to try to get yourself out of. From now on, I believe that I will be referring to only the first board, and I will be referring to the players as either Norristown or North Penn. So, North Penn just took Norristown's knight, the knight he was so generously offering. Now here's the question: will Norristown retake with his queen? Not sure if you can see, but the queen is in a direct line with the bishop. And it would be very foolish, be very foolish indeed to let such an opportunity as that pass. This allows his queen to develop slightly, as well as maintain the pawn structure and leave Norristown open to castle kingside. North Penn, however, can also castle, although he is without a bishop. Bishops are particularly nice in the opening and middle game because they can easily control much of the board. Knights are also useful so long as, you use them properly. Norristown's first board has is known for his cocky play style. He will frequently get up, take walks, go to the bathroom in the middle of play, simply because he has confidence in himself and in his abilities. Often it is warranted, but sometimes not so much. Here he comes back. What will he do? How will he retaliate to the knight move? The only reason why chess isn't a big spectator sport is because all of the action is going on inside the players' minds. And it's my job as commentator to bring to you what is going on in their heads. So, from the position on the board, it looks as though North Penn is attempting to... Yes. This is still early middle game where struggle to control the middle is all important, really. Again, if you control the middle, you can essentially control what happens in the rest of the board. However, that doesn't mean that the rest of the board can't control what happens in the middle as well. Currently, Norristown has a piece on one square of the middle, which is automatically controlling 2 spots, as well as reinforcement from queen, knight, and bishop. All told, Norristown has a hold on 3 of the 4 squares, a fairly secure one as well, I might add. I take that back. He only has a hold on 2. Well, while on the other hand, North Penn has a hold on the other 2. And is potentially attempting to weaken Norristown's hold on the 2 he has. But given the difference in development, I don't see that happening. So, it is currently Norristown's move. What he is thinking about, what he is strategizing over, what he is turning over in his head is the right move to make to develop his pieces while still maintaining the whole, well, either maintaining or strengthening the hold he has on the center. Moving his knight back to right in front of his king. While it may look like an unthought out move, it actually allows him to fight for control over one of the two squares he has not touched yet. This will make North Penn think twice before carelessly pushing his knight to, what is that? D4. So, instead of going D4, North Penn goes B4, returning a power grab move with another power grab move. Now, yeah, North Penn is right. Yeah, North Penn is again trying to gain more control over the center. Really, the whole. Well, typically the opening and really the majority of the middle game is fighting for dominance over the center. The tipping point happens when one player has maintains and really dominates those key squares. So, wow, that was a fairly well thought out move. Not fairly well. It was a thought out move. It looks as though Norristown's hold, specifically on those squares, is a little too tight and maintained for North Penn to really get a foot in the door. So, dropped his bishop back. Eliminating the danger of North Penn pushing d5. I mean, that's still a potential move, but it loses about 3/4 of its impact if the bishop is no longer there. I believe I may have said earlier that North Penn can castle on this king side. That is false. He cannot castle at this moment. Norristown can castle, and North Penn pushes d5. It is by no means a bad move. It just becomes less than what it could have been once Norristown moved his bishop away. Now, Norristown has an option. Good. Instead of potentially going for the series of exchanges, that would ultimately lead to a loss for Norristown. Not a loss of the game, but a loss in position, in material, overall loss. Norristown instead chooses to play conservatively and defend e4. Now, North Penn's idea to force an exchange or completely open that line is sort of, well, not exactly foiled per se, but there definitely is a wrench thrown into his plans. So, c5. Interesting. Of all the moves, I was expecting that one. I was sort of expecting the least. To be perfectly honest, I thought North Penn would push d6, if for no other reason than to prevent, not d6, d4, if only to prevent Norristown from pushing d4. Well, I suppose this works as well, because now Norristown really can't push d4. Currently, it appears as though North Penn has the greater hold over the center with those 3 pawns lined up. along the 5th rank. For those of you watching who don't know, the columns and rows of a chessboard are known as the files and the ranks, respectively. And the files are lettered from left to right from white's perspective of the board. So the very first square, the one that Norristown's rook on the far side of the board is on, that is A1, because it is the first rank and the first file on that rank. So first letter of the alphabet is A and 1, so this is particularly necessary when taking notation, because players must take down which piece moved and where it moved to. It's really a coordinate system. And particularly the vinyl boards the vinyl like matte boards that you see used before you, they will actually have the numbers and the letters marked to help with taking notation. Once again, this match is brought to you by NASD TV. The only reason why Norristown can't take that one the d5 pawn is because it has 3 defenders. The 2 knights as well as the queen that's sort of hidden behind the king. So, in order to force that knight to move, Norristown pushed the A pawn. Once again, Norristown has gotten up to do something. Ah, there he is. The movement in the upper left-hand side of the screen. He's, being nosy and looking at everybody else's chess match because he feels confident enough in his ability to make his opponent think. There he goes. Throwing his queen out to a5. Defending that knight. However, it does take a defender away from that pawn. Not entirely sure whether that was the smartest thing, because again, this is all a fight over the center. Well, Norristown takes the knight with the pawn. Queen retakes with the queen. Suddenly there's still a way to affect the center potentially in a more impactful way. Norristown castles. Not gonna take it, huh? Interesting. I was going to continue by saying, if Norristown really wanted to go through with that series of exchanges, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Yes, he would give up a pawn, but he would gain a knight from it. That would not, in fact, have been a terrible trade. It would also provide room for his rook to get out without pushing any of his other pawns. Rather, I'm sorry, without any prolonged sort of zigzagging around in straight lines, of course. But of course, that would have been the, that would have been the expected move, and Norristown is, if anything, excellent at doing the unexpected and somehow making it work. Alright, North Penn decides, hey, let's take that pawn of yours, shall we? I predict Norristown will retake, either with his pawn or with the queen. No, not with the queen, never mind. Most likely with the pawn. Yes. North Penn, I believe, will take with the knight. Or perhaps not. It would be a pretty terrible trade for North Penn to make. Again, knight for a pawn. If you don't know about the points system for chess, every piece is worth a certain number of points. Pawns are worth 1 point. Bishops and knights are worth 3 points each. Rooks are worth 5 points, and the queen is worth 9. The king, however, since it is the most important, it is the objective and subsequently the most important piece on the board, is worth a functionally infinite number of points. So, making that trade would ultimately leave North Penn 2 points behind. Where are we on control of the center? Norristown's position, rather, has not really changed. Pushing d4, huh? Interesting. What is the benefit? Well, potentially. Now North Penn can castle. That's a pretty messed up pawn structure. So I don't see why North Penn would castle queenside. Could easily bring his dark bishop out. Although with the action and the fight over the middle picking up pace now, he may not want to take the time to develop that bishop just so he can castle. Which is perfectly understandable, perfectly legitimate. That's why generally you want to get your development done in the opening and early middle game. Let's see. So there's still that pawn on d4. The black pawn on d4 directly attacking Norristown's bishop. This may be my short-sighted naivete speaking here, but I don't see why Norristown doesn't just take the frickin' pawn. Undoubtedly, there's some underlying strategy here, but, well, there's a reason I'm only third board after all. Alright, so maybe it wasn't that deep. Perhaps he just wanted to psych out his opponent. I'm not sure. He likes to play mind games. Attacking the rook, and there's really nothing Norristown can do about it. Yeah, just that one rook. So then, what will Norristown do? There's a rook under attack. But the danger of a knight is windmilling. Or they take one piece and then they just keep jumping around and around and around and around and around. Taking piece after piece after piece. Now, of course, other pieces can do a technique similar to that, but with the knight it's particularly dangerous because they have an irregular move. You know, they move in that L shape. Everybody else, all the other pieces move diagonally or vertically and horizontally or some mix of the two. But a knight moves in that L shape. And of course, a knight can jump over pieces. So then, where is that knight planning to go? And, actually, even worse, that just opened up North Penn's queen, I believe. Yes. That opened up North Penn's queen to go down to, opened up North Penn's queen to go down to Norristown's back rank. But again, the danger there isn't really as... rather, not again, but the danger there is not as serious because Norristown provided himself with a flight square, a square for his castled king to go to prevent a back rank checkmate. What would, however, eliminate that flight square for Norristown is if North Penn moved their dark bishop to d6, I believe. No, it wouldn't. Because there's the pawn on e5 that would block the path of the bishop. And there's no way for that pawn to move or be moved. So then, knight is attacking the rook. Norristown is trying
trying to figure out what to do about it.
He can't take the knight. So, if he wants to keep that rook, he has to move it. He has 2 squares for that. He has b1 or a2. His choices are limited. At this point, Norristown's third board just won her match. Congratulations to her. I hope she does well in anything and everything she continues to do for the rest of her life. By the way, speaking from experience, that was a total fluke. North Penn's third board messed up fairly early on and he never recovered. But back to the first board match. If I haven't explained castling yet, and if there is anybody watching this who is unfamiliar with the term, here's basically the rundown. First off, it's a Norristown B1. Alright. So, it's a technique that only works if the king has not moved from the initial position on the board. And whichever rook is going to be the partner in the castle cannot have moved either. So, there must be a clear line of sight between king and rook, and you cannot castle. You are physically unable to castle if either you are in check or if you're castling through a check. Like, say there's a bishop and you're not in check, but the space right next to your king is blocked because of that bishop, and you wanted to castle through that square, you could not do it. The king moves 2 spaces over to the rook, and the rook gets moved to the opposite side of the king. This tucks your king safely away into a corner, protected by pawns and a rook. There are 2 different directions to castle: castling king side and castling queen side, also sometimes called castling short and castling long, because the Kingside Castle obviously has fewer spaces between king and rook, while Queenside Castle has, I believe, 4. As we approach the halfway mark of this match, I would just like to remind everyone watching that this is all thanks to NASD TV, the amazing people here at the Comm Center in Norristown High School, taking time out of their afternoon to come and record chess. Again, it's visually not the most high stakes venture they could be recording, but believe me, it means a lot to the players, all of them here. Alright. North Penn brings his rook out to c8, threatening that bishop, and potentially, and once that bishop is moved, if that bishop is moved, providing support to that knight. So again, we have some options here. Norristown could drop his bishop back to b3, getting him out of the way as well as attacking that knight, but ultimately, what would be the point? No. There just wouldn't be the, there wouldn't be the backup necessary unless North Penn did something extraordinarily stupid, which, judging from this match, neither one of these players is stupid extraordinarily or otherwise. The waters, donuts and apples that you also see being eaten or otherwise, consumed during the course of this match has been thoughtfully provided by the Norristown chess coach, Mr. Young. He's really great, guys. Yeah. He's a good guy. So that bishop. Norristown could also potentially push the b pawn to b3 and provide some support there, giving the rook another option to move should he have to. However, that would take away all the support from the a pawn, leaving it wide open to be taken by either the knight on c2 or the queen on a5. So then, it looks like Norristown has made a decision. What will he move?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, what he's doing is fairly standard practice. Write down the move you're going to make before you make it. Take a second look. Just to review and recount what the consequences of that would be, whether it would accomplish what you intended to accomplish, or whether it would provide an unintentional opportunity to your opponent. Yep, there he goes. I see. So he moved his queen to b3 instead of the pawn. I'm not going to lie, that was not a move I was considering, but ultimately it is a good move. One of the better moves to make, if not the best. The second board match just finished. I believe that was... Yes, I believe that was a checkmate on the part of Norristown. Yes, so third board and second board won for Norristown. Bring the total score to 2-0. For the first board match, it is still North Penn's move. How will they react to this unexpected development? Bring the queen back. I see. Defending, not defending. Bringing more attackers to that bishop. Why is that particular bishop so important? Well, remember when I said earlier that bishops are important particularly in beginning and middle game, because they have a very wide range. They can control the center of the board from the very edges. And if a bishop gets to the center of the board, well, if it's not your bishop, you messed up. If it is your bishop, well done, you did good. So currently that bishop and queen duo is particularly interesting. Moving it out of the way and putting North Penn in check. Nice. So then, North Penn has an option to either block the check, or to simply move it out of the way. Move the king out of the way. In all honesty, blocking is probably the best. Yes, because North Penn trying to move it out of the way would lead to an unnecessarily exposed position, no matter what. Yep, blocking it with the knight. Good. So, however, now that knight is pinned, what will Norristown do? By the way, I'm not sure if you noticed this, but the struggle over the center has become much more decentralized. Pun intended. Not sure how good it was, since all my best puns seem to be unintentional, but that one was intended. Anyway. Alright. Putting more pressure on that knight. It looks as though Norristown is starting to head in for the kill. Let me see. Yes, that knight has 2 defenders and 2 attackers. One more attacker and Norristown will be able to safely take that square. And now there goes the bishop. Okay. So, yes, it is put seemingly in harm's way by positioning it between the knight and the rook. The defending knight and the attacking rook. But remember I said earlier that it would be easy for North Penn to throw his dark bishop out there and subsequently be able to castle. And that is what North Penn, I believe, is trying to do here. Regardless of what the next move is, North Penn will castle.
if Norristown takes the bishop with his rook, I believe first that North Penn, pardon me. I believe that first North Penn would retake with the queen and then castle. Which is why I don't believe Norristown will take that bishop. Bringing the queen out, another attacker. Prepare for the castle. Again, Norristown is feeling confident enough in his ability to leave his opponent pondering for an extended amount of time that he decides to take a walk and see how his teammates are doing. In the middle of all that, a few Norristown players find it easier to think if they stay active and don't just sit in a chair and think. Pushing the pawn to attack that bishop. Taking the knight. An interesting choice. Puts the king in check. He can't castle if he's in check. Queen recaptures. And that just broke the oh so pretty lineup of rook and king. Meanwhile, rook and queen rather. Meanwhile, Norristown's rook and queen are still lined up, are still on the same file. So, Norristown is deep in North Penn's territory. Take the queen. Queen trade. Yes. In all honesty, it would have been the height of folly to go that far and then not take out your opponent's queen as well.
again, this is... there's the castle. Norristown is deep in North Penn's territory. There's not much he can do about it at this point. North Penn's one knight is still just kind of hanging out on the second rank. Norristown has to figure out a way to get both his unused dark bishop as well as his other rook out and about, potentially as well as his knight. Although there generally does need to be a defender on the back rank. Blocking line of sight between rook and knight. Norristown's knight is still defended by that pawn, though. It looks as though the fifth board match also ended. My apologies, I was sort of focused on the first board match instead of the fifth board. Sorry, Lalo. So I don't actually remember how that one turned out, but touch rule. I don't actually remember how that match turned out, but it'll show us the scoreboard at the end. Interesting. Ah, I see why. Moving the knight back intentionally, oh, that wasn't very nice. Okay, so... yes, it's intentionally, in a spot, under the control of white's b-pawn. But that pawn is also the pawn, the only thing defending the knight from North Penn's rook. So, currently North Penn is directly attacking Norristown's rook, and Norristown quite honestly needs that rook. So, he has to figure out a way to get it out of that situation, preferably without moving the pawn. Now, a way to do that would be to move the rook back to the a1 square. And then, if North Penn moves his knight back to c2, Norristown has a semi-open file that he can essentially shoot out of whenever he pleases. So then, an alternative second move for that knight would be c4. It would attack both the pawn as well as Norristown's other rook. It would also get North Penn's knight back in a position to be defended by the rook, by North Penn's rook. So then, what will Norristown do? Will he A, move rook A1, B, take A3, or C, leave it alone and go do something else? He picks A, rook A1. So then, North Penn now has the option to A, move back to C3, B, move to C2 rather, A, move back to C2, B, move to C4, or D, move knight B5. Technically he has an option D2, knight B1 rather. But I doubt he'll take that one. It just doesn't make sense. It would literally be throwing his rook away, knight. It would literally be throwing his knight away to Norristown's either rook or knight. Chose option, what was that? B? Knight C4. Again, it's not exactly a kind move. But this is chess, and chess is a simulation of war. And war is anything but kind. So then, what will Norristown do? I see. A simple push, nothing more. Deceptively simple, because now Norristown can just take that one pawn whenever he feels like it, leaving his other rook open to potentially take North Penn's a pawn. However, it's still defended by that knight, so I doubt it. At least I doubt he'll do it right now. Choosing to defend the pawn instead of the knight. And it looks like the fourth board match just finished up as well. I can't see the outcome from here. Alright, bringing
bringing his other knight up. Well, not his other knight. Sorry, it's the only one Norristown's got. Norristown bringing his knight out. Threatening a check with the following move, knight e7. And again, North Penn has options. However, they're growing increasingly limited.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please pardon this interruption. This is Mr. Off. I just want to make a quick announcement prior to lunches today. I believe that a few of you are under the assumption that because it's June and close to the end of the year, the consequences are minimal. I just want to let you know that if you think that's true, you do not know us well enough. If you act up at the end of the year, your consequences absolutely can and will carry into next year and beyond. We've had a great school year. It's been a great day. We are not going to mess around at the end of the year. Thank you for being what we are proud to have called Norristown Eagles.
All right. North Penn. Interesting. Trading a knight for a knight, huh? Moving the I rook to... Did I say I rook? Why did I say I rook? No, there's no I file. The F rook to D8, I believe. Yes. It was attacking Norristown's rook. And Norristown's simple slide to the left was defending. Okay. Norristown, I believe, is going to move his knight. Of course, that's under the assumption that both players have completely forgotten about the completely untouched Dark Bishop for Norristown, as well as the mostly untouched Rook for Norristown. Again, Norristown's back rank rook has a semi-open file. This means that he can almost go down from one end of the board to the other in one straight shot, but not quite because there's a pawn there. Speaking of pawns, Norristown is beginning to make a push with his pawns as we approach the endgame for this match. It will become, much less, major piece centric and more pawn centric. In other words, whoever has the most pawns and the best strategy on how to use them will come out on top. As it stands now, Norristown is somewhat lacking in the pawn department. He's down a pawn specifically.
but he definitely knows how to use them. North Penn moving the knight to b5. Getting it out of the way of North Penn's rook. Leaving Norristown's knight wide open. So then what will Norristown do? Yes. To simultaneously defend his knight and attack North Penn's. So then knight d4, huh? Well, he gets his knight out of the way of Norristown's rook. I'm just not so sure that was the best move. Of course, I couldn't really think of a better one, so. But the reason I say it wasn't exactly the best is because it is, that knight is very much weakly defended. As opposed to Norristown's knight, which, despite being in enemy territory, has defenders, and those defenders have defenders. Oof. Never mind, it was a good move. He just forked Norristown's brooks. Whoops. Well done, North Penn. I didn't see that coming. But regardless, Norristown's gonna make him pay for it. By strategically, I suppose, moving his rook to a position that was defended by both knight, bishop, and rook. This way, Norristown can easily retake the knight. So then, it doesn't really look like the position has changed much. Yes, Norristown is minus a rook, but the extra knight and bishop make up for it. Okay. Pushing the pawn to attack that rook. So now he has a choice. He can either... Yep, that happens. Then I don't believe that Norristown will actually lose that knight because the pawn is defending it. Very often, chess players disregard pawns as simply filler or cannon fodder, but if used properly, the pawn can be one of your most dangerous pieces on the board. So then what will North Penn do? Their hands are sort of tied. I would not recommend Norristown to take the pawn with the rook. I would honestly recommend taking it with the knight. By the way, I just want to point out Norristown's extra knight and bishop more than makes up, more than compensates, really, for the lack of a rook. Points-wise, Norristown is up by 1 point. And that 1 point often makes all the difference. Because remember, this is the end game where pawns are God. And a pawn is worth 1 point. Points-wise, Norristown has 6 pawns. Has the equivalent, rather, of 6 pawns, while North Penn has 5. Ooh. I missed that. But apparently Norristown didn't. So then, North Penn has an option to lose a rook or lose a rook. Potentially to lose a rook, to potentially lose a rook, or almost definitely lose a rook. Either way, Norristown has the advantage, and he is not letting it go. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now the intricacies of pawn warfare is lost to me. It's not a topic I am entirely suited to. Rather, it's not something I really train myself in. And I should really, because it messes me up in the end game. Many of my matches, personally, are won or lost in the middle game as a result. I make many mistakes, and I don't know how to recover. But anyway, so. Here we are. A game of take and retake, capture and recapture. Pawn to pawn warfare. Preventing North Penn's a pawn from moving up at all, and subsequently sort of trapping North Penn's a rook on the 8th rank. What many of the chess players do once their respective matches are done, and which you can see there in the background. Often we will go over our matches together, see what was going through each other's mind, where we can improve, play scrimmage games against each other, like practice matches. Yeah, at a chess match, the chess doesn't stop. Also, once the pawns start to move in the endgame, generally so does the king, because the king is, while not necessarily an active offensive piece, it is very useful as a defensive piece, because, it essentially has the same move as a queen, just in only one space.
Alright, trying to hem in, Norristown's king. Preventing him from going too far one way or the other. Right now, Norristown is trying to pick off North Penn's pawns one by one. With that move, Norristown is simultaneously attacking two of North Penn's pawns, the A pawn as well as the... looks like the E pawn. Yes, the E pawn. Taking the E pawn would leave Norristown open to take the G pawn. H pawn, rather. So then what will North Penn do? Okay. I wonder if Norristown will still do what I believe he will do and take the E5 pawn. Yep. By the way, a rule for tournament matches is known as the touch rule, meaning that if a player touches one of their own pieces, they have to move that piece, and if they touch an opponent's piece, they have to take that piece. Unless, of course, they say permission, unless, of course, the player in question asks for permission to adjust a piece. Where, they kind of just center the piece on the square. Okay. Also, I would like to point out that North Penn is being very careful to stay away and off of the dark squares because Norristown's still got his dark bishop.
And while it has sort of been shoved to the side, literally, it's still there and it can still be used. Also, as we approach the home stretch, you can see in the background everybody pitching in to clean up and get the tables and the chess sets back in order. Alright. Takes the G-pawn, puts the king in check, which promptly gets out of. No, that wouldn't be a good move. Alright. Now what? Norristown has to step lightly here because the endgame is it's a very, very delicate time. It's a delicate stage. And if a player makes a wrong move, especially with as close as it is now, one wrong move can tip the balance enough in the opponent's in your opponent's favor that you lose. What will Norristown do to maintain his advantage? What will North Penn do to take that advantage away? And this is why I love chess. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people gathered around. 6 if you count the cameraman. Gathered around watching 2 boys stare at a chessboard. And if you're there, you can feel the tension. Both desperately trying to outthink each other, desperately reaching for something, anything that will either maintain their advantage, maintain their position, or utterly destroy any hope their opponent has at walking away from this with a win. Really, it's even more exciting because ultimately you don't know what they're thinking. You can come up with your own thoughts, your own ideas, but think so.
So just start them from wherever you are.
It's even more exciting because ultimately you don't know what they're thinking. You can draw on your own experiences, but sometimes you can be completely surprised, and the game will turn out totally different than you ever thought. So then, we have the knight, we have the rook, we have pawns and a king. What will Norristown do to push the mate? Pushing the pawn. Drawing attention away. That's why. Because of the position of the camera, sometimes pieces get hidden behind other pieces. And there you see why you don't forget about the bishop. I'm not so sure that was a good move. Because now the knight can just go F4, it looks like. Or not. Like I said, chess matches can surprise you. And there goes the bishop. But at the same time, there goes the rook. And there goes the knight. Pieces are dropping like flies. However, Norristown now has the opportunity to push the pawn and promote it to a queen. And it just so happens that the promotion square is, in fact, in a diagonal, on the same diagonal as the king. So, promotes it to a queen. King is immediately put in check. Because of course, Norristown can't just let North Penn promote. By leaving it to the very last minute, it looks like it's become a little bit more even now. Isn't there's less of an advantage for both? Hold up, is Norristown in check? No. There's the pawn. Now he's in check. Again, what I was saying about it all really comes down to the pawns. Norristown has one pawn more than North Penn. And that one pawn, I believe, is going to make all the difference.
Yep. It's the end. Now see, you really can just walk the king back, but no. Norristown's first board generally likes to play with his opponents once he knows he's got them. See? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, it's entirely possible to checkmate with only a king and a rook. And if he wanted to, he could have done it. But that's the thing. He has to want to. And there we go. That's the game. We will see the scoreboard, I believe, in just a moment. But as far as I know, at least, with this, Norristown has won in the match against North Penn. Give it just a second. We should be able to see the scoreboard. Yes, it looks like I can't see. Mr. Young, please move. I can't see. Yep, 4th and 5th board for Norristown lost, so the score is 3-2. Alright, and that is the match. Thank you so much for joining me for this. And I will not see you next time, but I hope you listen anyway. Listen, watch, and play some chess.